Good evening. This is Duane Lowry for the DPP Grain Desk on Sunday, May 20th. First of all, we have new grain trading hours that begin today. Instead of starting at 6 o'clock, the grain futures will begin to start trading at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time, and they will continue until 2 p.m. the following day. So rather than closing at or suspending trade at 7:15 in the morning Central Time and then resuming again at 9:30, the trade will, once it begins at 5 o'clock in the evening, it will continue without interruption until 2 p.m. the following afternoon. The settlement prices will be determined at 1:15, similar to the way they were before, but trade will continue until 2 o'clock. As far as tonight is concerned, I think weather is the primary focus. You'll probably conceivable to see a couple of different spins. Some will say that last week's gains were fairly significant, and they'll view the weather as not being that much different today than what they had on Friday. I think maybe there's a certain amount of truth to that, but I think the reality is when you look at the forecast, there's a lot of areas that have small precip total amounts probable during the next 2 weeks, and some of those will be in key areas of the Midwest. Weekend rains were pretty much in line with expectations, maybe even a little bit less than expected. A few showers beginning to show up in a spotty method over the eastern Midwest and parts of the northern Delta this afternoon. Not likely to see large totals out of any of those rains. Overall theme in the next 2 weeks, you're going to have temperatures running above in most areas. Sometimes there'll be some much above temperatures. Probably the warmest periods will be in the 6 to 10 day window. Precip will be favoring the north, and I'm talking about the northern third of the Midwest and probably the northwestern part of the Midwest. But there'll be a lot of areas that, if the current forecast verifies, will have very limited precip totals, if any precip, during the next 2 weeks. I think the trade is going to be concerned about that. I would view weather as elevating anxiety levels today versus what we had last week. I think we'll be higher. You look at globally, the former Soviet Union area still has dryness concerns. That will continue. China has some areas of dryness concerns. I wouldn't be surprised that gains market traction and a little bit more market attention this week than last week. Friday, the beans were extremely weak. Kind of difficult to explain why that is the case. I wouldn't be surprised that that is reversed tonight and tomorrow and basically this week. So I think all the markets have some room to recover here. I don't think there's any change in the long-term downside risk. I think it's very significant, as in $4 futures on corn, and I don't think that's an unreasonable statement at all. But obviously we have to get a good crop to achieve that. There's nothing in the current conditions or even in the forecast that says we can't obtain a very good crop this year. But I think in terms of adding weather premium and elevating anxieties and creating some short covering and speculative buying energy, I think we have some time during the next several days for that to happen. And I think sellers here want to be patient, let this recovery event carry a little bit longer in time. It's possible that we could be targeting 570 to 590 basis December futures on corn for an upside level here, where we have to get to that level before the weather runs its course. I think it's possible that beans could end up with a very deep retracement of the more than $1 move that it had in November beans from early in the month till now, so basically the last 3 weeks. So I think that potential sellers, number one, need to be stay focused at looking for a place to sell here on strength. Is the right bigger picture idea. That's the right approach, especially if you're a producer. But I think you give it some room and allow the weather scenarios to play out, allow the market to build some what-if premiums back into values, and allow some speculative buying energy to enter the trade here. So look for markets to be well supported this week. I think if the weather forecast stays as it appears on Sunday afternoon here, I think we should see a pretty aggressive rally phase here this week, and but in the bigger picture, I think it's very important that producers stay focused and be ready to pull the trigger on getting some downward price protection. For the DPP Grain Desk, this has been Duane Lowry. Thank you.